All right. I think let's start to dive on in. First of all, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jake Gordon. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO here at Notify. We're joined by a rock star lineup of panelists diving into an exciting topic today, which is the future of AI in golf management. We have a pretty diverse a set of perspectives that we're going to bring in here today. And while we allow some folks to continue to trickle in, just a few housekeeping items. We're going to be sending this recording after, and you'll receive all the materials we're going to share here today. I'll real quick go through a quick agenda of what's on the docket today to talk about. First of all, we're going to do some introductions. Like I mentioned, we have a pretty diverse array of perspectives of folks we're going to bring in here to comment on the future of AI in golf and maybe bring some outside perspectives as well. David Lorenz here is going to be revealing some brand new research, fresh off the shelf, fresh off the press from the NGF, talking about the phone call $100 million problem in golf and really what the implications are there. So some breaking kind of insights on that front. Excited to have Jonathan Golart from Toast joining us, bringing some insights from the restaurant industry. And then probably, one of the main reasons a lot of folks wanted to tune in is to hear from Lisa Dahlstrom and Rick Crowder here, bringing the operator perspective to the table and how, bringing out a crystal ball a little bit into what the future might look like. And then lastly, we'll give you a little show and tell of what's to come from the Notify side on the AI front and how we're thinking about it from the technology side. Maybe to just get started, we'd love to do a little round the horn here. And first of all, Michaela, thank you so much for helping coordinate everything. You're a rock star, and we appreciate all the help here. Maybe David, you want to kick it off with a quick introduction? Just tell us a little bit more about your role and maybe about what's going on at the NGF today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jake and Michaela. David Lorenz. I'm the Chief Research Officer at the National Golf Foundation. I'm sure many of you on this webinar are familiar with NGF, but if you're not, we are a trade organization in golf who exists to help the industry better understand the marketplace, the consumer, what's happening, where things are headed, all through the lens of data and discovery. So we have spent some time over the past month or so looking into the operational cost of golf's phone call burdens and adding some texture to that. And those are the types of things our team is regularly exploring, are things that the industry faces up with that are either inhibiting growth or could be contributing to growth. And so this is one of the many things that we sort of sink our teeth into on a day-to-day basis. So it's good to be here and happy to be joined by this great group.
Awesome, David. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. All right, let's go to Jonathan. Jonathan, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your role? And I don't know if you want to touch on any of your golf interest and kind of what compelled you to join today.
Yeah, no, thank you. For the past 10 years, I've been building products for small businesses and businesses across various different landscapes. Right now, I am leading our data and AI foundations product team, and we're really trying to solve and figure out how we can bring AI to restaurant owners in a way that solves their most pressing needs. So really excited to talk about that with this group today. Yes, I'm an avid golfer. I'm not going to reveal my handicap to this many folks right now on this call. But yeah, I love small business. I love businesses. I think there's a lot of opportunity here for AI, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about that today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jonathan. And based on my experience in the golf industry, there's an inverse correlation between skill and how operations are going sometimes. So, your handicap is safe and sound with us. All right, let's go to Lisa. Lisa, do you want to do a quick introduction? And you're on mute here, so maybe if you don't mind jumping off mute. Perfect.
There you go. Hi, everyone. Lisa Dahlstrom here with the Heritage Golf Group, Vice President of Revenue here on Hilton Head Island. Been with the company for 25 years, and the focus is, dynamic pricing, and we also have a call center here with 4 clubs, 7.5 golf courses. So teaming up here with Jake from an operator perspective and knowing where AI is going is in the forefront of what we need within the industry. So
Well, Lisa, we appreciate that and extra brownie points for soldiering on. I know you're recovering from a procedure, so really, really, really appreciate you joining in
yeah,
here.
no problem. Thank you.
All right, Rick, you want to round us out?
All right, welcome everyone. My name is Rick Crowder. I'm with American Golf, Vice President of Revenue with Regional Operations Oversight, tournaments and private events as well. And we are excited to have you all on the call today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know, Rick, you're overseeing 40 plus properties. Lisa, it's got to be, including the privates, even more than that at this point. So I think it's going to be great just to bring a wide array of perspectives here. Michaela, you want to round us out?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Michaela Dujardin, Head Up Marketing here at Notify. So excited to bring this group together to kind of be thought leaders on the AI space in golf.
All right, perfect. Well, let's dive on in here. David, I'm going to tee it up for you with just a couple slides and a couple thoughts. I know this is an ugly slide here with a lot going on, but I wanted to just kind of tee up the moment here. You know, why are we on this call? We've got 240 folks who've tuned in. You know, why are we talking about AI? And I think just putting this in context and how I try to explain this to my dad, who is 70 plus years old, and you know, trying to understand the moment is we believe this might be the next big platform, right? And what does that mean, the next big platform? If we're looking back at how technology has changed our lives in the past, things like the personal phone, the personal computer, the internet coming out, even the iPhone in 2010 or 2008, each of these technology advancements have created a whole new ecosystem of technology innovation, whether it's the internet birthing things like eBay or Amazon or Google, or whether it's the iPhone, which created the mobile platform, which birthed eBay or Uber and Airbnb and Pinterest and all the other new technologies that came from it. Maybe even a Toast, which was enabled by mobile as a platform, right? The question is, each of those technology innovations made a meaningful impact on golf course operators. If with the invention of the internet, you could book tee times online. With the invention of the iPhone, you could book tee times from your pocket wherever you may be. The question is, what does the future look like with an AI agent or an AI assistant in your pocket? What does the future look like as a golf course operator if you have an AI assistant to help you answer phone calls, answer inquiries, do data analysis? And when we're looking back in 10 years from now, how will we reflect on the emergence of AI similar to how we're reflecting on the emergence of the iPhone? And what does that mean for golf course operators? This just came out recently, and there's a little bit of a variance here. But the latest numbers, I don't know how many of you, actually I do, and I'll reveal that in a minute, are regular ChatGPT super users. But today, there's almost 800 million weekly active users of ChatGPT. 800 million. And that growth is hyperbolic. There's now 5 billion plus visits a month and with 8-minute average sessions. What does that mean? Why does that matter? What that means to me is consumers are getting more and more used to using AI as a friend, as an assistant, sometimes as a therapist, as a coach, or as an agent to help them book the activities that they want. And I don't think there's any signs that this hyperbolic growth is going to slow down. In 2025, there very well may be 1 billion active users of ChatGPT. Many of you probably got this survey before you signed up for this session, but we asked all of you. We had almost 500 registrations, 400 on just Zoom, and 78% of you all said that you're using it either every day or occasionally. So what that means, I think, is we believe this is the next platform, this is the next shift, and we're excited to dive in today to bring the golf overlay of what does that mean for all of you. So with that, David, I'm going to pass it to you to kind of touch on what does this mean for golf course operators and what is your research indicating? And I'll also note, please open up to the group if you have questions, post them in the chat, and we're going to get to them along the way. All right, David, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. So I want to start by saying I'm not an AI expert nor a futurist, but I suppose where I slot in here is to help us understand the realities of the current model of communication at golf facilities. This has been a surprisingly interesting topic to look into for us, I'd say, and judging by the turnout, 240 people, I know it obviously strikes a chord with a lot of you who are working in the golf course business. It's meaningful to me on a personal level. I think back to my own days working at a club in Cincinnati, and it makes me laugh, but also gives a little bit of PTSD thinking about all the calls that we used to field and the nature of those calls. So our team's been digging in on this with the goal of both quantifying the operational costs of what we might describe as golf's phone-dependent culture, but also the root causes. And I would say that what we've discovered in doing so will probably make a whole lot of sense to most people, but I think also that it reveals better the scale and nature of the problem, along with some important sentiment on both the consumer and the operator side that should hopefully guide facilities who are thinking about some change. So let's start with the scale of the phone problem. Our analysis, as you see here, suggests that each facility, on average, over an entire year, fields about 40 to 50 calls a day, which consumes in the neighborhood of an hour to an hour and 15 minutes of staff time. Those numbers are both annualized and industry-wide, so they understate the reality for many businesses during peak season. And we had the benefit of getting a peek into call logs for facilities across the country of different size, scale, and nature of operation. And so it was common for us to see instances where an 18-hole facility was fielding 150 calls a day, multiple hours. And so when you roll that all up, we're talking about 6 million phone hours, and using a conservative labor cost estimate of $17 an hour, which is conservative because it doesn't factor benefits or other overhead, or the fact that higher paid staff often handle phone duties at times. It's then conservatively, we're talking about $100 million direct labor expense for the industry. And that's, of course, a big number. But for me, my mind goes to what that represents in terms of opportunity costs. And so, and also we suspected there were likely some hidden costs involved here with poor customer experiences embedded in this whole idea of phone dependency. So speaking of hidden costs and the cost to the consumer, 2/3 of golfers say they experience some form of phone-related frustration in the past year. Jake, if you want to advance to the next slide.
You got it.
Whether that's actually on the phone or while on site. So 2 out of 5 say they were interrupted by phone calls while being helped in person. If you just think about that dynamic for a moment, you're a paying customer on property, and staff attention is being diverted by someone phoning in. Another third or so couldn't get through during business hours, they say, busy signals, straight to voicemail. 30% say they've had to wait while staff finished lengthy phone conversations. More than a quarter were stuck on hold for more than 2 minutes. I mean, these are real costs to the consumer and a real impact on the experience. Maybe the most directly impactful of all is the fact that more than 10% of golfers claim in the past 12 months to have actually hung up and called a different course because they couldn't reach someone quickly enough. That's money walking right out the door because of communication inefficiencies.
David, I want to chime in real quick. Let me maybe pull in Lisa or Rick for any live reactions to that. Maybe starting with Lisa. Lisa, I know when we had talked on the Hilton Head Island, the volume of courses you're getting, something like 10% drop-off rates. So what are you seeing in terms of the potential opportunity cost here of the volume of calls you're getting to the call center?
Yeah, so with this, we have a call center. We want the staff in the golf shops to focus on the consumer, the golfer in front of them, being able to promote and sell, upsell, merchandise. So, we're hoping with the AI to alleviate some of that call volume. And, a lot of what we are seeing, knowing this project, I actually worked the call center several times over the last 3 or 4 months, and finding some of these calls that are coming in are merely easy questions that are on our website, but the golfer isn't taking the extra 5 seconds to look at it. Where I feel that with AI, now you can just type or say, "Hey, what's your club rentals? What kind of club rentals? Do you have a range?" Those simple questions, I think, would alleviate many of those calls that are coming in.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Rick, anything to add in terms of from the daily fee perspective on what you're seeing in terms of the potential opportunity cost of call volume to the pro shop?
Sure, I echo part of what Lisa says. Folks calling in is actually a kind of a good problem. That means people want to come and play golf, right? So we're happy with that. We also feel like we can't get to every single call in the manner in which we want to get to it, and the expedience we want to get to it. So we want, by enhancing the AI portion of it, we can enhance the service that we're offering to the customers, right? There's a lot of calls that are placed to the shop where they're on hold, where it is a quicker avenue to go to the website and get the information you're looking for. But
Awesome. All right, David, I'll pass it over to you. Keep rolling here.
Sure. Yeah,
Anything else on this slide?
We'll continue to build some perspective here. If you move us to the next slide, we've established the scale of the impact, but the natural question then, and Lisa just touched on some of this in Rick, but the natural question then is, what exactly are facilities spending 6 million hours on the phone handling? So first of all, to nobody's surprise, there are stark differences between facility types. Public facilities, the majority or so of that labor investment goes towards handling transactions, basic booking, pricing, other information, inquiries, and then private clubs are fielding more calls about amenities, special events, other golf-related services, which is reflective, obviously, of the broader service portfolio that they have in situations that likely justify the personal touch. But the main point I would say here is that so much of what's being handled is, as Lisa mentioned, is it doesn't actually require human judgment, and it doesn't require relationship building. If we move forward, what's perhaps interesting in terms of putting everything in context, we want to understand how golf's communication patterns compare to behaviors in other industries. So we ask golfers about how they typically book various types of services. Probably not to anyone's surprise, we found that the same golfers who are calling pro shops demonstrate a high level of digital adoption or inclination everywhere else. 80 to 90% are mostly or exclusively, they say, booking flights online, rental cars, hotels. Meanwhile, golf sits far below in this cluster with restaurant booking and ordering takeout. I think the travel comparison is particularly interesting and striking because those transactions actually involve often far more complexity. They're dealing with different dates and connections and seats and luggage options, bags. It's a lot more complex. And golf booking, I think, objectively is quite simpler. You're looking at a time slot and how many people and your credit card in a lot of cases, but the behavioral patterns are different. And so that in a way suggests that it's perceived differently by the consumer. And I think this tells us something important about golf consumer psychology relative to service expectations in other categories. And so if we move forward, then the natural place to go is, why do golfers resist digital booking for golf when they clearly embrace it everywhere else. And we asked people directly to explain to us why, when they are so accustomed to booking online for other things, that they're still doing this with golf. And what we found is almost an even split between what we could call system shortcomings and then behavioral patterns. So the data you're looking at here, these lighter reddish dots represent what we might call system shortcomings, issues that it would seem the industry and operators could address. And then the darker red dots are consumer behavior. And so on the system side, almost half of people are citing website limitations and concerns, wanting confirmation that the reservation went through, saying golf course websites are unreliable, or the booking isn't convenient. These are obviously fixable problems. Then on the behavioral side, what dominates is pure habit, pure inertia. It's what I've always done. Of course, I guess the caveat here to acknowledge is in all of this is an aspect of human touch that we have to acknowledge. And you can see it with this data here, where a quarter of golfers rationalize that the personal nature of golf or the desire to connect with staff are driving some of those phone dependency behaviors. But some of the reality of this golfer phone dependency issue is that the majority of people we talked to admitted that they could have accomplished what they needed without calling, at least in some cases. And 20% of golfers we talked to confess that in most of their the situations where they called a pro shop, it wasn't necessary. They could handle it otherwise. So that's a lot of times where we're not even talking about legitimate service needs. And there's substantial waste embedded in that behavioral autopilot, and people recognize it.
David,
So,
real quick, I'd
yeah,
love to pull in Rick right here. Rick, I know you used to work in the hotel industry, I think for Hilton for several years in the revenue organization. How did you see a shift over time from the convenience and efficiency of online booking, online customer service to not wanting to lose that human touch?
Well, I think it was a necessity to do it. If you didn't go online in the hotel industry back in the late '90s, you were in trouble. So there's a lot of folks that just were, a simple thing like putting a credit card online. Back at that time, it was like, oh my gosh, why would you ever do that? And you're opening up your whole history to everyone. Well, it wasn't necessarily what happened, right? So doing that integration over into the AI portion back then, even going online, was a huge boon to the hotel industry.
Great. All right, Dave, we'll keep rolling here.
it's just a couple more then is where do we go from here? Talking solutions and some of the risks perhaps to implementation. The main takeaway from the slide we're looking at here is that the risk seems manageable. Almost half of core golfers who we've talked to indicate some level of openness to AI-based solutions at golf facilities, at least as you see described here for the simple stuff. And there is a skew to that, you would expect it, and there is a slight skew towards younger, but also interestingly, the females we've talked to show slightly greater openness and positivity to solutions. Now the risk is somewhat offset by the third or so of people who say they prefer human interaction in all cases. And that sort of ties us back to the previous slide and the point about recognizing obviously the importance of maintaining a human touch. So I don't think anyone needs me to say this, but it doesn't seem like it's a one or this or that situation, but certainly a lot of what can come in can be handled through solutions, and people are expressing openness to that. And so then lastly, I guess, is where does this leave us, or where does this leave all of you? I should say, people who are on this call, who's doing what, who believes this is an issue worth addressing. What you're looking at here reveals really a classic awareness and versus action disconnect. So almost 3/4 of operators who we've talked to agree that there's a meaningful enough opportunity cost, that phone calls are consuming valuable staff time better spent elsewhere. But only a quarter are actually using or exploring technology solutions. You can interpret this in different ways. Among those ways, I'd say we're looking at a competitive advantage window. Those in the golf course business who, most of your peers recognize the problem, but few are actually solving it. And so it would seem anyway that facilities who act on this gap will be able to achieve some type of competitive advantage, because now you're freeing up your most valuable asset, or one of them besides the golf course itself, which is your staff, your human capital, to focus on what actually can differentiate your course and the experience at your course, and being able to deliver, memories and happiness to people who are choosing to spend their time in your facility. So I think this gives something to chew on in terms of the need to act and the opportunity that is presented by this gap we're seeing here with this data. So hopefully this all, I'm sure it's not earth-shattering to most, but hopefully there's some interesting context in thinking about both the problem and the solution and the opportunity in solving the problem.
Awesome, David. I appreciate that. I mean, the initial reaction I have is we may be, not to bring this horrible looking slide back, we might be in the early innings of one of these major platform shifts where there's a evolution to adoption, and we're probably still in the very early innings of the early adopter phase, kind of like we were in 2010 with the iPhone. But we almost now get a kind of window into the future, because I know in the restaurant industry, Jonathan, and maybe as a golfer, you can comment on this. It feels like the restaurant industry is always a little bit ahead and actually an early adopter of new technology. Maybe that's not true, but when I think about Toast using point of sale checkout solutions, when I think about Open Table and the elegance of that booking platform, it feels very native, very intuitive, the technology adoption in the restaurant industry. So, maybe I'll pass it to you, Jonathan, and tell us a little bit about how you're seeing small businesses in the restaurant category leverage this technology and lean in or not about AI.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I'll try and tie some of this back to some of what David was calling out in his themes as well. But yeah, I mean, we've taken a really problems focused approach with our restaurant owners, and because like many of you, they're wrapping their heads around the technology. They don't have a lot of time to, and we want to make sure we're solving their immediate needs. And I think it's generally fallen to really two buckets that I have here, which is save us time. Like every minute really counts for both them and their team. And then really thinking about how they can outperform, right? Drive those top line, bottom line impacts. And I'll give two examples here. One is thinking about marketing to their guests, right? So similar to the golf industry, we're really consumer driven. Like restaurants are really focused on their guests. Like you would be really focused on your golfer that you're trying to get in the door. And yeah, restaurant owners spend a lot of time like thinking about the emails they're going to send to their guests, the social media posts, right? All of these ways that you communicate with your potential customer does take time, right? And because you want it to, like you really want to focus there and make sure you're driving folks through your door. And so, yeah, we rolled out an AI marketing assistant really to help solve that need, and have seen a lot of positive momentum behind that, and enabling restaurant owners to help write campaigns more quickly, to help write those social media posts so they can drive guests through the door. And then on the flip side, really, yeah, once you get folks in the door, right, and y'all mentioned this a little bit earlier on, is like, how do you start thinking about upsells too? Or once you get them to a digital surface or any surface for your business, how do you start thinking about upsells? So yeah, if you've used an online ordering experience, you probably get recommendations. If you've gone to Amazon, you get recommendations. But they're really starting to evolve now more with the technology, and you can really start to personalize these more. And we start to roll out AI upsells for restaurant owners to be able to use to really drive revenue, right? So save me time in getting guests through the door and help improve my revenue by upselling them once they're there has been a really nice flywheel combination that are solving real needs for these current owners. And if you go to the next slide,
Maybe, Jonathan,
I would,
one quick question for you on that. When you guys first deployed this technology, first presented the concept of AI marketing, the concept of AI upsells, I'm sure restaurant owners and operators were accustomed to the art versus the science of this, right? They may have written those emails themselves. They may have been used to suggesting to the guest on the phone to get the dessert or the side. Was there any apprehension in the beginning of, maybe this is nice, but not for me? Or did you just see folks get really excited about this out the gate?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's also a great segue into the learnings too, because they tie really directly to that. And I think those fall into two buckets in my mind. Is like, as a business owner, you want to stay in the driver's seat, right? You want to be in the driver's seat when you're using these products, and you should stay in the driver's seat. I'm really a firm believer that a lot of this is a partnership with AI, and you hear a lot of hype around what AI can do and what humans are going to do. And what jobs it can do. And I think it's really a partnership, right? And so like our owners have taken that approach as well. And so yeah, there's early apprehension, but I think when you have products that give you the ability to partner with that marketing assistant, right, to change the tone, to summarize the way you want it, to learn that it knows your business, it knows the copy that you sent before in the past, right? If you go to ChatGPT right now and start writing marketing emails, like you could probably do it, but it doesn't have as much context as if you were to use our marketing assistant, right? Hasn't been aware of your business decisions. It doesn't know your copy as much. It doesn't know your past email campaign performance, right? And so there is a real value, in my opinion, too, to having software companies similar to Toast that to offer these types of solutions, because it already has that awareness of your business and you can trust it more and you can interact it with a way that feels like a partnership. Similar to like, when you're going to surface upsells to a guest or to a golfer, whether it's in a digital surface or in person in your store or in your restaurant, right? You review those upsells beforehand, right? Like a restaurant owner would, they have their staff meetings with their wait staff, and like they're running through what you can and shouldn't upsell, like how you're gonna approach the day. And like similar for, you want to guide your AI too, right? You want to trust what it's told you, you want to verify it, but you still want to be in the driver's seat. And this is an image from a similar product, not one from Toast, but we've taken that same approach where you give folks the ability to confirm the upsells that the AI is going to use, right? Still be in that driver's seat. You're not operating in a black box.
Great. All right, we'll keep rolling.
And yeah, I'll leave you all on just looking around the corner a little bit. I chose this example. It's one that I'm super excited about as we go into the future. If you have gone on Google recently, you may have seen they have an AI mode, right? So you imagine, thinking back to Jake's earlier slide, as we go through these kind of platform and technology shifts. You used to Google, you still do. You Google, you look, like you point and click, and you go to websites, and then people started building a lot of websites, right? And now like Google has AI mode, right? And I just, I did this yesterday. I put this in here, right? You can look up restaurants near me. It's not going to just give me websites anymore. It's going to give me like actual restaurants. And it'll give me like direct links to like their Google reviews. It's cutting down some of that experience and getting me to an answer more quickly. And you can already start to imagine a world where like, yeah, you shouldn't be building websites anymore, right? Like this Google AI is going to need to be interacting with something else, right? It's going to be needing to interact with your AI. It's going to be needing to interact with maybe the Toast AI, right? It's going to start shrinking that experience a bit. And what's going to be great is not only is like guest search going to change, golf search is going to change. And you have to imagine a world where you can bring some of your business data and personalization to that experience, not just through a website anymore. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to see what that looks like. And I can imagine Google and many other search companies are excited to see what this looks like as they start to plug into all the future AI that's going to be built.
Yeah, Jonathan, I think you make a great point, which is we're already seeing the future of restaurant discovery change, where the AI is right now giving recommendations. Where should I eat in my area? If I'm looking for Indian food, et cetera, it'll say, based on our data, here's what we see. You can easily see the future of golf course discovery changing, right? If I'm Googling play golf in LA, what is informing that recommendation? And course operators, I think this has been a big topic of late, is being very aware of the incentive structures there, being aware of wanting that customer to go directly to you. But I'm also understanding that the reviews, the website structure, all of that's going to impact whether or not you are recommended by ChatGPT, whether you are recommended by the golf course agent of the future, right? So these are all great considerations. And Jonathan, I really appreciate that. And Hopefully, we can get around in soon and keep talking shop on that. And with that, I think we really are going to transition here to the operator corner. And Rick and Lisa, excited to pull you in here and talk about what you're seeing and maybe bringing the crystal ball a little bit out and thinking of what the implications could be to AI in your day-to-day operations in the next 1, 3, 5, maybe even 10 years, right? And could be on a beach at that point, but I do think it's worth considering it regardless. So maybe let's just start off. Give us a little lay of the land on the current state. Maybe Lisa, we'll start with you. Tell us more, whether it's on Hilton Head Island or more broadly within the Heritage portfolio. What does it look like today, the golfer booking experience, and how do phones kind of play into that journey right now?
Yeah, so here on Hilton Head Island, we're a golf destination. We have 4 million visitors that are coming here. So a lot of people are searching, planning ahead for their week vacation here. And with as many golf courses, there's 27 golf courses here to play on the island. People are online and searching, and a lot of people are calling in with simple questions. It's available on our website. And I took the opportunity with working with your team. I'm going to work the rest center. I want to keep some of these calls that are coming in or what other questions. And here I'm fielding some calls that were simple questions of, what kind of rental clubs do you have? Well, it's on the website. Sir, we have, Callaway rental clubs. The cost is this much. Would you like for me to go ahead and book you a tee time since I have them on the phone? Nope, I'll go ahead and make my tee time. I'll book it myself. Just wanted to ask that question. So looking in a given day of how many phone calls that came in that probably would have been answered by AI, and that golfer would have booked directly their tee times directly on the website, was probably 20 to 30 calls. And that was just me as an agent with other agents working. So when I look at that, my gosh, could I alleviate 70 to 100 calls a day of these simple questions? And it would make it easier for the consumer to go ahead and book online and find all their answers. And the answer is yes. But also looking at it from the standpoint of labor, having to have agents and fulfilling these hours of answering calls. On a given Monday, I'll have I'll have 3 agents on at 8 in the morning because we're taking in 50 to 60 calls in that 1 hour. So from my perspective is what can help the consumer to utilize the website, make their reservations, eliminate those calls, and in turn, I can eliminate some labor through the call center. So I think it's a win-win there as an operator.
Great. Thank you for that, Lisa. Pull in Rick here. Rick, what are you seeing on the front lines? I don't know if you've had to work a shift recently. I know a lot of times home base that you're at Lakewood Golf Club or Los Verdes, 2 of the most popular courses in the world. What are you seeing on the front lines with regarding the phone call experience and what's happening in the pro shops today?
It's interesting as we went to online bookings only for about half our clubs and the half of the clubs that are the busiest clubs, some of the busiest in the country. Folks will go online, book their tee times, and they'll still call in to ask questions that, they may have regarding, the range hours or what have you. When you go onto a website to book, you can look for that information, but folks aren't going to take the time just to kind of go through your, excuse me, to go through your terms, conditions, and look through the information you're looking for. So having that chat box right there, front and center, answer their questions real quickly, it's going to allow us to spend more time with the folks who are actually checking in, not interrupting that interaction with folks trying to get to the tee box. Because that's kind of the issue we have is not with the phone calls, it's not giving the correct service that we want to at times. Because you may have 10 minutes of no activity in the pro shop, then all of a sudden you have 8 folks coming in at once, all checking in individually. And by the way, 3 or 4 phone calls coming in at that same time. So something has to give. It's either a delayed check-in or perpetual hold time or long hold time, And then you get one person who's going to chat your ear off. It's kind of a no-win situation at times. So having that function on the website, chat box ready to go, is going to help us greatly.
Great, appreciate that, Rick. And Lisa, maybe a question for you. I know Heritage operates a number of private facilities. Do you see adoption on the private side, or obviously the white glove concierge level touch is different, and sometimes with a municipal course versus a luxurious private club. So how do you see whether it's call volume or AI just impacting the private side of things as well?
Yeah, I think that, with the private side, you always have different activities and not just in the golf arena. You may have pickleball courts or social and dining where, being able to say, hey, what's going on, at the club on Friday. And if you've got your calendar events, they can say, hey, we've got this pool party on Friday. So I think, you know, you would be using it similar to the way that you would do GPT chat is it could be a random question. Although a lot of people, a lot of golfers at private clubs do like that one-on-one where they can call the golf shop and say, hey, I'm Ben Smith. I'm going to come out at 2 o'clock and boom, it's taken care of. So I think it would be various different ways of utilizing AI, whether it would be a private versus a daily fee.
Great. Well, maybe I'll give you all an opportunity to kind of put on the tinfoil hat, if you will, or bring out the crystal ball. If we're thinking about golf course operations in 5 years, what do you expect to see when golfers, I think we all hope, everyone on this call, 240 of us are hoping that the momentum and enthusiasm and excitement around playing the game will continue. We've already seen things like grass cutters and a lot of AI and automation be on the turf itself, whether it's reading green conditions. But I'm curious for you, maybe Rick, as you think about the future, how do you think the booking process will look in 5 years from now? And we won't hold it against you when we bring out in 5 years and look back, but I'm curious, what's your prediction?
I think it's we're going to go pretty much all online. Just like hotels did a few years ago. We're never going to lose that ability to confer with the customers when they check in with the golfers. So we want to have more time to spend with them when they check in. We want to be able to have that one-on-one, that good correspondence, that good relationship. And a lot of times, that's right at the point of contact when they are checking in. The phone calls disrupt that frequently. And it's just something, if we can avoid it, again, we don't want the phone calls to stop coming in because that means, that's not necessarily good for your course if people quit wanting to come out and play. But if you give them an avenue to get the answers they're looking for quicker, and while you can spend more time with folks checking in, that's really the crux of it. We want to spend more one-on-one time with the customers during check-in.
Lisa, maybe anything to add there? And I know we're catching you probably right before an appointment, so I do appreciate it, but I'll give you one more shot. Yeah, any other predictions when
Yeah,
we're thinking
no,
about
I,
your
I
portfolio?
think I think one area too that we may not have touched on is, being able to identify.
Uh-oh. Little cliffhanger. Lisa. Lisa, can you hear us? I think we lost you right there at the end.
Lisa, no,
All right, we're gonna circle up with Lisa afterwards, and it looks like, oh man, I think we're missing some really good stuff here. So we'll have to circle back with Lisa on that. But I'm imagining an exciting future for sure. All right, let's roll into the next segment. And Rick, I really am curious. I know we're early in our kind of days here, but let me real quick, and maybe Michaela can help me with the muting a little bit. Let's roll into a little show and tell. And this is new, right? This is I think early days, but I'm excited to show you all the latest evolution of what we're kind of bringing into the market here, leaning in and trying to work closely with you course operators to figure out, hey, how do we bring these ideas into life? And David, I know we had talked previously, and I think there's some apprehension. You got 30% of operators saying there's something here, but I don't really know what. And so, how do we bring that to life? I think that's one thing we're going to dive into here today. So, we're excited to have our new AI Pro Shop Assistant, which is going to somewhat take the place of the existing Notify Golf widget, which is the assistant that can help with tee time notifications, and really turn it into an all-knowing, enthusiastic Pro Shop assistant that can augment the existing operations you already have, but with far more kind of breadth and depth of capabilities here. So the first one, and this is powered by the latest AI models, is you can say, I want to book a tee time Saturday, right? And as soon as you populate that in, our system will be able to pull your tee sheet data, ask you more about what type of tee times you want, and in real time display that inventory right there on the spot. So this kind of goes into maybe 5, 10, 15, 20% of the inquiries that are going into the pro shop, whether it's, hey, what's available on Saturday, right? Now, hopefully, the agent and a big part of the future of AI that we're seeing with ChatGPT and others is agentic capabilities that can actually help you book. So the first is if you have a tee time you're looking for, the chat assistant is connected into your tee sheet and will help you book right away. The second thing is maybe you don't see the tee time you're looking for. So I want to join the wait list. And then what we'll say is, okay, no problem. You want to join the wait list, and maybe, I think everyone on this call wants to play Saturday mornings between 7 and 9 a.m., right? So you can say, I want to join on Saturday, or if I'm a regular, I want to do a recurring search every single Saturday. But let's just say this Saturday, I want to play between 6 and 9 a.m. for my foursome. All I do is I put in my information and I just can get added to the wait list, just like that. So things like that, we're trying to take on the 40, 50% of inquiries that a lot of folks have. You can ask, I want to host an event. And then what will happen is we'll read your website. We're going to look for the exact information on how you book an event at Marshall Canyon, more about what that experience looks like, and route you either to call the sales and marketing director, email them, or hopefully be able to submit an inquiry right there on the spot that gets routed to the right person. Something we hear all about is hours. So what are the hours of the restaurant, right? If you ask a question about the course, it'll answer it. What are the driving range hours? Or is it open? Just like that, we'll answer it. Something enough, that we're hearing more often, and this is going a little bit of a tougher challenge to solve, but is it cart path only today? Right? As long as we have access to the information, we can answer those questions that golfers may have. And in doing that, hopefully cut down on 30, 40, 50% of the volume that's going to the pro shop and enabling your staff to get freed up to do higher value activities. Obviously, it's important that you can track this. We're hearing operators say, I want to look at the logs. I want to understand what type of inquiries folks are reaching out about. Because if I know that 38 people are inquiring about rates and fees, maybe it's not visible enough on my website. Maybe I'm not communicating that well enough. If I'm seeing that I got 10 qualified questions about events, I want to drill into those chat logs and maybe call them directly to convert those at a higher percentage. So we know it's incredibly important that you can track this, that you can audit this. The how many calls are saved, that's a little bit more art than science, right? But the goal here is if we can free up, an hour a day from your staff, how many more range balls can you sell? How many more hats can you sell? How many more memberships can you sell? If I have 3 more minutes with Jonathan at the pro shop, maybe I'm going to ask how your game's looking. And if you're a 17 right now, we need to get that down to a 10. And let me introduce you to our pro. The last thing about this is it's really important that you can track how the conversation went. So if I go over here, every single conversation, we want to know, was it a 5 star or was it, kind of a crappy experience? And on our side, what we want to do is drill into those bad experiences and say, all right, what could we have done better? And what's great is every time you enhance the AI, the entire ecosystem enhances. That's probably Jonathan. I'm curious, at Toast, are you all using kind of the large language model chat inquiry experience to enhance it for everybody, or how are you all doing that on your side?
Yeah, no, we're definitely doing something very similar where you take into consideration the feedback, right? And I think that is so important in these types of products. And it's great to see that here too. And going back to that theme that we had earlier where, like you feel like you're in the driver's seat, right? And this really helps, I would say, like an operator feel like you're in the driver's seat to see these chat feedbacks. And same if you imagine our marketing assistant, right? Like as a restaurant owner gives that feedback, you want it to adjust and you want to be able to see that. See those improvements pull through into the AI. So yeah, definitely something that we've experienced, and I think it's just a best practice for these types of products and when you use them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing I'll emphasize is this is hopefully the very, very early days of capability of what the assistant's capable of. The reality is, this depends on a golfer going to your website. In the future, maybe they're just searching in ChatGPT, right? Book me a tee time at Lakewood this weekend. Maybe they are calling their voice agent and saying, hey, I'm looking to play in LA. What's available between 7 and 10 this weekend? So for us, we understand these are the early innings. And I think that's what's very exciting is the game we know and love, hopefully will continue to thrive, but the channels by which and the mechanism by which folks are getting exposed to availability and information, hopefully will rapidly change. And, maybe tinfoil hat back on, Rick, in 5 years, that very well could be the case. I don't know if there's any other comments you wanted to add, Rick, on kind of what you're seeing or what your hope is that the system will achieve.
There's a lot of courses that are set in their ways, and with American Golf, we're fortunate. We're looking to improve at all times. We partner with resources that enable us to provide the best service and in return for our landlords as well. Courses or management companies that don't embrace the upcoming AI advancements are really not doing the customer base or their landlords any favors. Right? So we really
Yeah.
need to move forward, embrace it, and there's going to be some technology that really does advance the golf course operations and the experience that the golfers will have at the course.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, Rick. I think what we're going to do now, first of all, it's awesome we still have, 220 folks on the line. Why don't we transition a little bit to some Q&A? And I'm already seeing several dozen questions here in the chat, but let me maybe open it up to the group here. It sounds like, and I'm gonna start with a question here from Matt. Matt, I know you're always bringing the hard-hitting questions, but it sounds like the system can only be as good as your website is. And if the websites aren't up to date, can it read it, right? And can it have a voice assistant that can help with that? Full transparency, I think you're absolutely right, Matt. This is something we are hearing and seeing across the board is if you don't have an updated website, it's quite possible the system will not know the right information. So a requirement of getting your AI agent tuned correctly is having an updated website. One thing we've been working closely on is being able to read the T-sheet notes. So our AI system will be able to go to your existing T-sheet, and if you put on there, it's cart path only today, 828, we will know that and communicate that to the customers. But if there's no mechanism of being able to train your assistant, train your agent, then the system will not perform well. It's just like a new staff member. If you just, send them out there and say good luck, there's a good chance the quality control is going to deviate. So one thing we've also been working on is allowing you to upload on the back end your new employee manual. You can go in there and upload your maintenance schedule. You can type in custom questions and answers to be able to truly tune the model exactly how you want it. So it's like your best employee every time. But you're absolutely right, Matt. If operators don't have an updated website, there's a high probability there will be wrong answers. All right, we'll keep rolling here. What are the most important metrics operators should track to prove that the AI assistants are driving ROI beyond reduced phone call volume? I think that's a great question. That's from Mike. David, I'm going to kind of pull you in here. I know you're not on the ground operating facilities, but as you think about ROI from your analysis, how would you define business impact or revenue from this assistant?
Yeah, that's a solid question.
You're the smart one here, so I passed all the hard questions to you.
I don't know that. I don't know the answer necessarily yet, but as I sit here and listen more and think back to the things that we've discovered, this doesn't really answer the question that you're asking me, but I'm hearing like two real implications. One is how to be competitive in a future state where the way people are going to book and find you and decide to play at your facility. You have to play the game to be competitive. So you can either stay doing what you're doing or evolve so that your website can be read and that you can handle basic inquiries. And the other is, I guess, this sort of gets to your question about measuring the effect. One of the things that I don't think is always thought about is actual satisfaction and happiness. And in my view, everything's about trade-offs. And in this case, the trade-off is, look, we can allocate time to low touch moments where someone's calling to book, and it's very transactional. Or think about at scale, the ability that replacing what you're doing frees up your most valuable capital to go deliver in moments that actually require emotional intelligence or local knowledge or the ability to read situations. What if solving for your phone issues allows you to free staff up to do drive-bys out on the golf course? Hey guys, how's it going? Or to read a situation where someone's not having a great round. Hey man, can I get you a beer? Satisfaction at the end of the day is the most important metric for people in the business of delivering experience and satisfaction. We're not a commodity business. And so to allocate resources towards the commodity aspect versus the high touch EQ type moments, we're just missing an opportunity to create loyalty and satisfaction. So I would be thinking about satisfaction is ultimately the ROI, but in terms of some of the more nitty gritty measurements, I don't know. I defer at this moment, but it's a great thing to think about, and I will.
Yeah, appreciate that, David. I don't know, Lisa, I see
Yeah.
you there. You have something to add?
Back, I apologize. I was saying earlier that, one thing you can look at as well is knowing that if my website isn't providing the correct information, am I losing that golfer? Such as, you know what? Through the data, we had 20 people ask if we have a junior rate or some that might have a military rate. If that's not on our website and it comes back that the information isn't there or they don't provide one, that might be a tool for you to realize that, wow, we have a lot of military or we have a lot of questions about junior golf. We need to have this information on our website. So I think not just from the labor side or the call volume, but making sure that the information that is on our website is relevant to what the golfer is looking for.
Hey, can I add a thought? Actually, Lisa, you and I had a chat, and something that really hit me when we talked was something as simple as language. That
Yes.
in your area you get a lot of visitors who aren't native English speakers, and the
Correct.
ability that technology has to handle that initial encounter in a smart way. Think about the loss of someone who tries to phone in and there's the language barrier and they give up and leave. So I was really impacted by that is a moment that maybe we don't think about, that likely most facilities will need to think about more and more into the future, is the effect that this can have on those moments.
Absolutely. I mean, we look at it, we're a golf destination, a vacation. We have people coming from Europe, South America, Asia, all over. And oftentimes, and I learned this when I was on the phone, is sometimes there's a challenge with language. And having the AI is fantastic that it can translate and answer all the questions for that individual.
Great, appreciate that. Rick, anything to add?
No, it's interesting. You can innovate or antiquate, and I think we're going to choose to innovate.
Love it. Jonathan, maybe I know we're close to time here. When your restaurants think about ROI of using these solutions, how do you communicate that to them? And obviously going through the innovation life cycle from early adopter to user, what does that look like from your perspective in the restaurant industry?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is similar to honestly what folks shared here. And I think I'll give an example. This isn't something that we've built yet, but something we heard, and in terms of opportunity costs. And a lot of chefs in the kitchen are the ones who act as the expediters, and they're reading out the orders as they go, and they're really, they're really better served, and they want to be out in higher EQ tasks. They want to be cooking and managing the staff. They want to be out on the floor too. And so, yeah, we imagine a world where like maybe there's an AI expediter in the kitchen, right? So I think a lot of these sometimes boil down to opportunity cost and just spending your time better as you should be, as you want to be too. And we've heard that. I've heard that from restaurants. For some of the examples that I talked about earlier on, like I agree, satisfaction is a big part of it too, especially when you're interacting with the guests, similar to a golfer, right? You don't want to be sending emails and working with an AI to send emails that make your guests unhappy, right? That's a huge flag and something to be thinking about when you measure your success. And yeah, I think all of those together start to hit your bottom line, and you start to show that up in your business performing. But a lot of it, I would agree, that it kind of falls in those two buckets that David highlighted. I think those are great call outs.
Excellent. All right. Well, I know we're a couple minutes over here. Still a lot of questions here in the chat, but maybe any parting advice, starting with Rick on, to the operator community, a lot going on. We have an exciting technological future, but any advice to the operators out there, thinking through how to get started or how to consider using this in their operation?
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the best features, Jake, that I see is the tracking and categorizing of the questions that do come in through the chat. That's instead of trying to guess and asking starters, okay, out of the calls you get in, how many are this, how many are that, right? But this is a real live, 100% accurate analysis of exactly the types of questions that are being asked. And now we can go back and react on that by updating the websites, but also depending on those questions that come in, we can actually change some ways of the way we conduct business potentially. Or getting more tournaments because folks have an easy segue to say, how do I book a group? So there's a lot of advantages to going in this direction. And if you don't do it, you're just going to be left behind.
Great. David, any parting advice? Sign up for the NGF?
Whatever, if you want to. We'd love to have it. No, I just, like I said, opportunity cost is always an important word in business, and I think that's what we're facing here. Reallocation of valuable resources that I think maybe a lot of people underappreciate the power that your staff has to create the singular moment that gets someone to come back. And I think sometimes it's easy to think of that as like it takes a lot to do. It's a small moment. And if you can free people up from the counter and the phone to go out and just give a smile, like as silly as that sounds, those are the things that make the difference in someone saying, this place is all right. I think I'll come back here. So I look at that. I look at this as the opportunity cost, and not as a trade-off between like, no one's talking about eliminating staff. It's just, it's moving staff to the right place to make them, to maximize the impact. So I think if you're in doubt about why to do it, or why to explore the possibility of advanced technologies to help with your booking and your website and all that, just think about the power of those small moments. It's likely not going to happen on the phone. Someone's not in an emotional or mental place to decide right then and there that they're going to come back. They're trying to solve a problem. But when they're on the golf course and their heart is open and their mind is open, that's when you can make the impact. So anyway, I don't know if that's advice, but that's just my parting thought on all of this.
Love it. Jonathan, any last thoughts?
No, it's just inspiring me to get back out on the course. So yeah, thanks for having us. And yeah, I think I see a lot of similarities in what David said there, and thinking about like the guests that you serve as an operator, and yeah, you want to have those wow moments, right? And I think AI can help to enable those, and help to enable your staff to free up, yeah, their brain space to be able to create those moments too when they're not in the weeds working on things that they might not need to be working on anymore. So totally agree, especially when you're serving a guest or a golfer.
Excellent. All right. Well, with that, thank you so much to everybody for making the time. We'll send out all of this recording materials. I'm sure the gears are turning all over the place and the different use cases. If you have questions, you're interested in learning more, if you have ideas of how this could help, reach out to us, give us a shout, and then we would love, love, love to hear your feedback and thoughts about how this could help your operation. Thanks to our awesome panelists, Rick, David, Jonathan, Lisa, who has got to get that shoulder back into fighting shape. But thanks again for all the time, everybody, and again, really appreciate your partnership and looking forward to seeing where the future comes.